Hi everyone, my name is Alexandra Recca, and I wanted to come and share my thoughts and my ideas with you guys about whether or not you should adopt or shop when you're looking for a pet. I think we all love our pets, whether your cats, our dogs, our furry creatures, our scaly creatures. We all love them, and we all understand the incredible amount of responsibility that comes with taking care of another being, whether it be whatever kind of animal it is. It is a responsibility that we have. But when we are considering getting a new animal, we also have to understand the responsibility that we have to other animals, not just the ones that we are buying ourselves, and not just our own personal responsibility. Throughout my life, I have been the proud owner of four dogs. Three of those have been little mutts, and one of those was an adopted dog that I got because it was my dream dog when I was a kid. So I decided to buy a dog from a breeder. Of course, I did look into the breeder before buying a dog from them, but as far as the differences between adopting and shopping goes, me personally, all of the dogs which I had adopted, all of my mutts, they they grew up with me. So they grew into like my teenage years from when I was a little girl. They lived a very long time. They had very, very little medical intervention, very little medical expenses that we had to pay for them. They were all around pretty healthy dogs. But when I compared it, I bought a Yorkie when I was in second grade. So when I compared it to her, there was a lot of differences. Mainly the amount of care that she needed, the amount of medical attention that she received. She would have issues breathing. We had to get her medicine for I believe she had cancer for a really long time. She passed away already. But they're just all around. Dogs tend to be healthier when they are adopted rather than shopped, rather than being bred. People should choose adoption over puppy breeding and puppy mills because you have to consider the amount of overpopulation that we have with animals. You also have to consider the ethics and the morality that goes into buying an animal, and the overall health of the animal too. You have to consider the quality of life that animal is going to have, being that there are so many health issues that come with buying purebred and buying from breeders. You also have to consider the ethics that come with puppy mills and the overall cruelty of other animals that happen to animals when they are in mills and when they're being bred to an extreme, and what happens to these animals after they've been bred to their maximum capabilities. Okay, so with that being said, adoption and how it impacts pounds and overpopulation. So adoption helps to prevent the production of more animals, which leads to more feral animals and usually more homeless animals. This is said in the American Humane Society, where they state that the ASPCA reported that each year approximately 1.5 million shelter animals are euthanized. This helps kind of decrease the amount of unwanted animals each year that we see in the streets. But obviously, I think anybody could argue that the death of anything is pretty sad. And if you could do something to prevent the death of something, and especially when you consider the living conditions that so many homeless animals have, anything to prevent that would help a lot. And something that actively prevents that is adopting rather than shopping, because when you shop, more animals are being produced and less animals are being adopted from the streets and from shelters that are overpopulated. This is also said by another thing that you need to consider when you're adopting is the fact that most of the animals that you are adopting are neutered. So this is like veterinary intervention that goes on, that keeps animals from breeding again and again and again. And that's why it's so important to adopt, because most Animals, it's basically like a circle. Like you buy from a breeder and you buy those animals to you yourself become a breeder in a way and have that animal make more animals for you to sell. This was especially said in the article Animal Population Control by American Humane. And they state that most American pounds and kennels encourage the veterinary profession to assist whenever possible in neutering cats and dogs to prevent the overpopulation of more animals. Okay, on to our next topic. How breeding animals for physical looks affects their overall health. So when animals are bred for looks rather than just overall performances, they are often left with a lot of chronic health issues like hip dysplasia and problems breathing. Hip dysplasia is seen a lot with like bigger dogs that are bred. Usually, like if you look at like German Shepherds, Great Danes, all of those animals as they age tend to have a hard time walking comfortably and walking efficiently. And animals like dogs like French bulldogs, American pit bulls, like animals like that are bred to look a certain way, and Frenchies especially, they have breathing issues because of their stout noses. You can also consider, at least in my case with my dog, Yorkies tend to have very, very bad, very, very poor health conditions, like heart conditions. Since they are so tiny, they have a lot of pressure on their heart from the rest of their body. This was said in the article. Although purebred dogs can be best in the show, are they worse in health? They stated that to foster the desired appearance, breeders often turn to line breeding, and line breeding is basically another way of saying inbreeding. So most of these breeders are inbreeding. So basically, if you have a show dog, that show dog, if it has a specific look to it, it is disregarded whether it has any underlying health conditions, any diseases. It's disregarded and it is bred over and over again with the same animals that it has already bred. So basically, it's bred with its children. And this leads to an increase in hereditary conditions, an increase in overall conditions. It is a big issue. And another thing that you should consider when you're thinking about breeding animals is the unnatural and forceful breeding of these animals. Many of the times when animals are being bred, they're not being bred just naturally how you would see in nature. It is usually like artificial insemination. And this especially could be very, very traumatizing for animals. And this is something that we've seen be illegalized in the past years with surgical insemination being illegalized. And this was said when Vet Help Direct stated in their article, should artificial insemination be used in dogs? They state that the surgical method of artificial insemination is described by most veterinaries as being incredibly traumatizing and unethical. And it has fallen into the group of banned practices that you can do on animals. On to our next point. Oh, I went back too far. Sorry. All right, my apologies. I went a little bit too far. So our next slide has to do with puppy mills and animal mills and the cruelty and immorality that comes with basically breeding animals to their full extent that they aren't naturally supposed to breed. So most of these animals are basically left to wallow in their own filth. They have very little medical attention, basically just enough food to keep them alive. Most of these animals, if you see them, they have open wounds, infections, infectious diseases, worms, and mange. And most of these animals also, at least the puppies that come out of these animals, a lot of them have diseases like parvo, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with parvo, but parvo, basically it's a disease that a lot of puppies have that can spread among more dogs. And if it's not treated, it could kill the dogs in days. And these animals are being sold for thousands, and they're being produced in a way that is so harmful to society and to these animals and to the dogs that are being milled. For example, in the article Puppy Mills, Dogs Abused for the Pet Trade by PETA, they state this is like a first person point of view like statement from a puppy breeder that a Pennsylvania breeder confessed that he kept dogs caged as a way to be able to have more dogs at a time penned up. Once those animals were no longer able to breed after after like 10, 12 times that they're able to breed, most of these dogs were killed. They were all killed. And a lot of the dogs that come out of it, as they say, a lot of these animals are sold at ridiculous prices, even considering a lot of the offspring produced by these breeders are sick with infectious diseases like parvo. So this is something that should really be considered when you are, because a lot of the times we buy from puppy mills without even exactly knowing that we're buying from puppy mills. So it's not even something that we're aware of. It's just something that happens in the background of most things. Okay, so as we near the end of our presentation, I wanted to leave you guys on a more happy note, the cute dog. So it's important to remember that our pets should be cherished no matter how they look, because in the end of the day, it's more about what's inside, and it's more about the things that dogs are able to give to you than what exactly dogs are able to show about you. It matters more how you treat your dogs and how much your dogs love you. And the most important thing that we should consider when we're purchasing a dog, it's how we're going to impact their lives and how they're going to impact our lives. And at the end of the day, I think the most thing that we could do for them is impact their lives in a way that isn't hurting them, even if we're not intentionally hurting them. So we should pick the option that least negatively affects animals and our pets. Okay, thank you guys. I hope you guys have a nice day. Thank you.